All right, we are live. Welcome to this week's Truss T&T video call. With today, we are here with Marshall Paepke. Marshall, I wanted to have Marshall with us today to talk about a hot topic on how do you bring your employees back to work, and most importantly, what should you do when your employees don't want to return to work for a couple of different reasons? But thought Marshall would be perfect because Marshall has over 20 years of experience in the HR world. So Marshall, give us a little bit of background on you and your experience in the HR world.
Yeah, Logan, thanks for having me here today. And the trust members are all doing well in these unprecedented times. It's kind of, weird what we're going through, but I'm glad that we're getting to the tail end of it. So my background is I actually started out in HR as an intern for Mountain America Credit Union and worked there for 21 years. I ran the HR area for 12 years and then went on the executive team. And then a couple years back, started my own coaching and consulting company. And so I work with companies dealing with all different types of things from, executive advising to HR issues. And because people are a large part of our businesses, I spend a lot of time talking about people.
That's cool. That's cool. So I know last week on our virtual roundtable, a lot of people had the question, what should I do when employees don't want to return to work? So what are your thoughts with that? How did you answer it in that call? And I wanted to do this call so everybody can hear your brilliant answer. So no pressure. Go ahead.
Okay, I don't know if it's brilliant, but really, I think part of it comes down to your culture, right? What are you going to do as an employer when you say, hey, we need you to come back to work? And part of what I think a lot of companies are going through right now are some companies are doing really, really well. Other companies are trying to salvage their business or save their business, right? So from a business owner's perspective, people are feeling under stress and they need people to come back. So we don't necessarily understand why an employee may not want to come back. So the first thing that I recommended to the group was to, actively listen to employees. What are their concerns? Why are they anxious to come back to work? It could be that they have somebody sick at home and they're more worried about getting that person sick at home than they are actually about coming back to work. So really active listen to what their concerns are and try your best to address their concerns. Second, make sure and communicate, and most likely over communicate, because as executives, sometimes we think we've done a good job communicating and we really haven't, or people didn't hear us because their mindset wasn't in a place where they could hear us. So really communicate to employees what you are doing to keep them safe. And then once you've communicated it, do it again. The third thing, where appropriate, ask for suggestions, recommendation from employees. And if you are able to, and it makes sense to implement any of those recommendations, then do so. And the employees will really feel heard. They'll feel like you really do care about them. Or if you've already proactively addressed some of their concerns, let them know, hey, we thought about that and here's what we're doing. What do you think? If you ask them and engage them through that process, they will be so much more likely to come back and really feel heard and valued, and it will increase your loyalty considerably and it will enhance your culture. So take that approach. The fourth thing, help employees understand that you're interested in their long-term, their short and long-term career. Because some people right now, they've not been unemployed before. They haven't been home getting paid not to work. And that feels pretty good for a while, right? And some of them may not even be thinking ahead to be thinking, hey, this can't last forever, right? Some people have the mentality, I'm going to take it as long as I can get it. So as an employer, I think it's really important for us to understand and help them understand, that's a short-term game, and really we're here for your long-term career success. And then lastly is number the fifth point I would just point out is really be clear about what you need as an organization. So don't sidestep it. Be very clear. We need you back at work. We need you to come back and help us grow this business. And also help them understand in a positive way as much as possible the ramifications if they do not choose to come back to work. And that, what I mean is it could impact their ability to collect unemployment. And some employees don't understand that. Just assume that if they say no, they're still going to get paid. And that's not necessarily the case. So those are kind of the simple things that people can do right now to address this, bringing your employees back to work.
Marshall, what I like about that is there's two elements to it, right? There's the human side of listening and explaining and trying to help them in their career. But then there's also you can still be kind and care about people while still being clear on being like, hey, look, like we need you. And if you say no, then that means your unemployment will stop. And so I appreciate the clarity in there, but it's always led with the humanity part, right? With the care personally part. But that doesn't mean you can't challenge directly, is what I'm getting at. And I like both sides.
Yeah, and just to address that a little bit, I think sometimes, and I won't get on my soapbox here, I'll just be really brief about this. Sometimes I think we take a passive aggressive approach to problems like this. We're not very clear, and then we expect people to read our mind or understand what we need. And right now is not the time for that. Right now is the time for clarity. And part of that clarity is understanding that there are consequences, positive and negative, to the choices that employees make when we make them a job offer to come back to work.
Are there what resources are out there for companies that are dealing with this and helping to navigate these waters?
Yeah, I'm going to mention one more thing and then we'll jump to resource, but that's a great question. So, most of us know the acronym WIFM, WIIFM. Are you familiar with that, Logan?
Yep.
So this acronym, what's in it for me, right? So if we take the mental approach, right, the mindset of addressing what's in it for employees, I think that they're much more receptive to hearing. And also, if we explain the whys, why are we doing what we're doing, then they hear them. So a great resource that's available to both employees and employers is from the Department of Workforce Services. And they actually go out and they break down what employees need to understand and what employers need to understand. And I think you guys are going to be sending out this link. But let me just go through a couple of highlights here that I think are really critical for businesses to do. So on page 2, it says, I am ready to reopen, increase business, and call my employees back to work. What needs to be communicated to my employees? And again, the line out of here I really love because it says you should directly and clearly communicate the details on the work offered. And then it goes through the specifics, include the start date, full-time, part-time, the wage, type of hours, general location, and condition of the job. Many employers in situations like this, they'll think, oh, I can just do this by word of mouth. I can just tell them. And what I'm encouraging people to do, employers, is write this down. You need to create a paper trail. So if anybody comes back to you and says, oh, you didn't offer me anything, and they forget what you said verbally, you can say, well, here's actually the written offer. And if they decide not to return to work, you also need to be able to show that they did not return to work. Okay. And so if somebody says to you, I'm not going to return to work, you can ask for that in writing and let them know that you need that, because you need as an employer to report that to the Department of Workforce Services for your unemployment benefits. So just a couple of details real quick. So you've got the rate of pay, type of work performed, reason for the claimant's refusal if given, and if the claimant being recalled to the same type of work previously performed, is it the same role? And then the method the job offer was communicated to the employee. And again, you can do it verbally, but I would highly recommend you do it in writing.
No, I would, yeah, because I think clarity helps both sides, right? It helps with to protect the business, but it also helps to inform the employee, and it shows the employee that you actually have a plan, right? That the company is doing okay. The company has a plan. I think that's very important.
And lastly, there's been some really good articles actually in some of the newspapers, and we'll send the links to them of those articles. So some people want to take more of a passive approach to kind of this, you need to accept the job or your your employment benefits can be impacted. And these articles do a good job of explaining that. I would encourage employers to be clear and just say that. But if they have a culture where it's a little bit more, well, I want to take this approach, then use an article to help educate your employees about what they need to know.
It's a good idea.
Kind of a softer approach if people want to take that approach.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Marshall?
Well, final thought is this. In real estate, we all know that the 3 most important things in real estate are location, location, location. And in business, what I've come to find out are the 3 most important things are communication, communication, communication. So communicate effectively, communicate clearly, and I think that you'll be able to navigate this situation very well.
One last question. If this doesn't go well, I can edit this out, right? We've probably paused enough there. I've heard on some of the calls that, people have, is there any risk to, let's say they furloughed 100 people and they really only want to bring back 70? That 30, how do you terminate? Like, is there, with these new times, is there any, what do you do if you don't want to bring back your entire team? Or you can't because of resources or because of need?
Yeah, that is a great question. And again, I will give some guidance. I'm not going to say that this is the expertise today to use, but as you determine who to bring back, I think one of the safest ways to determine who you should bring back is based upon performance. If you go to people's performance and what they did, and you look at their last performance evaluation, assuming you have those, and you're bringing back all of your A people or your high performers, and the people you're not bringing back were those who were on a disciplinary action, you're going to be really safe. Okay.
That's assuming that you have good documentation of success.
Right. Exactly. Amen. So
what if you don't have that?
If you don't have good documentation of success, then what I would say is do your best to identify as you go through the process why this person was chosen over that person. And documentation helps you, but also if you don't document well, it can hurt you, right? So make sure if you're documenting something that it's something that you legally should be able to make a decision, a hiring decision off of. Okay. So there are things that are protected that you wouldn't want to put in. I've made a decision based upon, these things that are protected that could get you, or not protected, that could get you in trouble. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I appreciate it, Marshall. Thank you so much. This is super valuable information. And I'm sure if any of our trust members have a question for you, they can look in the directory or the member portal and have your contact information and reach out to you. But we really appreciate your time, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, Logan.